Hello everybody, this is Graveless coming to you with a follow-up to my previous video about mid-game tech tree. This is because one of the most complex parts of the mid-game tech tree deserves a video entirely on its own, which is the drives that you use to win the game. Why is this in the mid-game tech tree, you might ask? Well, an unfortunate truth about Terra and Invicta, much as I love it, is that the endgame has some problems. These problems are, once you've kicked the aliens out of Saturn, like mostly Jupiter, but especially Saturn, you've won the game. It is not a question of if you've won the game, it is a question of how many additional years it will take you to move from the state that you've taken Saturn to the state where you've won the game. This is because nothing they do at that stage actually really increases their threat level. You have drives that are capable of getting there. You can beat bases that they've been held up in and start really whittling down any Doom fleets that might have been created. It's merely a question of time, not if. And that's why I'm going to be doing the long-range mid-game drives and the discussion about end-game drives video, because in all honesty, if you understand my ship design for mid-game ship transitions of go over to coil Mark II green arc lasers, those designs, you just upgrade to Mark III and UV phasers, and they really don't change outside of drives. That's the funny thing. The end of the game is basically all slowly or quickly upgrading your drives and sending ever-increasing numbers of fleets out to fight the aliens. So let's discuss drives. There are really two lines of endgame drives that can win you the game, which is fusion and antimatter. There is also a single drive in the fission line that can do this. We will get to that in a moment. Fusion is definitely the meta pick. Within fusion, there are drives, I think, that are better or worse in terms of getting you to win the game, but all of them get you there. It's just a question of how quickly they get you there, how efficiently they get you there, and do they give you anything else nice in the process of doing so. And for that, I'm going to show you right now again, meet the PCT. This is the drive I honestly hate existing in the game because it warps everything around itself. It's the best drive in the game. No ifs, ands, or buts. It is a humongous amount of research to get, and still probably too cheap. Like, this drive, in terms of raw research points, is almost 3 times as expensive as the next most expensive drive. Or sorry, no, it's twice as expensive as the next most expensive, but that's a meme. And that's still not expensive enough for how good it is compared to literally everything else. But going on that for fusion lines. So start off with, we have electrostatic confinement. These are the lower thrust, higher exhaust velocity drives. They're basically things like your grid drive plus. Yeah, they don't get you going anywhere fast. They can win you the game. The other big thing in the fusion line that you generally need to be aware of, reactors matter a lot more than they ever did before. So let's take the peak electrostatic drive. So each nozzle we add does not meaningfully increase our ship's weight. It only accepts the third reactor, which gives us plus 1,000 tons. Let's lower this down until we can use the earlier one. Like, electrostatic, actually very efficient, but 95% efficiency versus... Oh, that's also 95. Wrong one to use as my first example. Let's just go to the big daddies, the ICFs. So, ICF 1, 85% efficiency. I'm just going to go over and stick a drive that uses this in instead, because this will actually showcase my point way better. Electrostatic was the wrong thing to use. So here is our ICF-1 reactor plus drive. Let's actually use the Deturia Nova. 26,000 tons. 28,000 tons. A lot of that is going to be because of this reactor's efficiency. ICF-2 plus 4% efficiency. Oh, look at that. Our weight went way down. with corresponding increase to IV. ICF 3, ICF 4, 5, 6, 7. This keeps happening. The ICF line is actually the line where this matters the most, but it matters to all of them except for electrostatic. Probably. Electrostatic's one of those lines I never really use, so I don't know it as well. But going through them, we can go line by line. What I'm going to show you pretty soon is the spreadsheet that tells you the summation of this rather than me clicking around the UI for you to see things. But all of them function, and it's not a question of will they get you there, it's a question of how long it takes. Antimatter is complicated. The best antimatter drive is third or fourth best drive in the game. I usually think third. Like, I think it's the third best drive in the game in most cases, but there's an actual debate about this. The problem is, antimatter requires about as much research as fusion does, and requires you to build infrastructure to fuel it. You have to build super colliders in orbit around planets, which are now very expensive, and the aliens love killing them. And also, all your fuel takes that. Also, today's tea is Earl Grey. Just going for a classic today. Ooh, I do love the lavender in that. It's very nice. Anyway, fusion line. So, electrostatic. Electrostatic, it is your, like, low thrust, high efficiency. Then we have mirror cell, which I'm going to be honest, I don't really know what's going on with fusion drives that well. But if we look at the peak mirror cell, 13.2, 9.5, 85%, 12.4, 10, 99%. Like, let me just double check my spreadsheet with the, its big benefit is it's the cheapest to actually get, looking at my figures here. So, yeah, there's physics that matter for this. I don't know the physics. Then we have tokamak, which is a different form of fusion. you're gonna get this a lot. There's a lot of different things going up this line. Tokamak is a little bit faster, a little bit better thrust, but like as I said, like you can look at the values here. 7, 261. Like this has no cruise. It also has no cruise, but a bit better. The key is you can use any of these three and be fine, but they're not the ones that I'm really going to be talking about a lot when you're doing fusion drives. Their biggest benefit is they're a lot cheaper. Then we have hybrid fusion. Hybrid fusion exists in the same line that ICF does, so a lot of people talk about pairing it with ICF. Hybrid fusion is your high thrust fusion drive. That is actual real cruise acceleration. Let me go put a reactor on that. That's still actual cruise acceleration, which you're not going to get with any other fusion drive besides the really good ones. Like, let's grab the best one here. Oh, 5. That technically gets you into the cruise acceleration I like, but not really enough for endgame. We can grab the best one here. Not really. Like, these are efficient enough fast. However, where hybrid loses out is it really loses out on efficiency. It's the drive that will take you the longest to actually get out to Saturn or get out to Pluto, and the most RP in order to get to the stage where you can do that. Just because it's not a very efficient drive. I'm going to skip over ICF for a moment and go into Z-Pinch because that's next. Z-Pinch, on the other hand, is the fusion drive that really, really wants efficiency. In terms of drives that can win you the game, in the fusion line, like, this is the one that gets to its best drive fastest, in terms of winning you the game tier drives. But you're going to suffer from thrust problems while you're using it, as is the main issue. It also uses a lot of Fissiles per tank, which might matter, and we'll get back to that in a bit. And then there's ICF. ICF is the line of God drives, which is to say, early on, oh god, no, and later on, oh no, like, this is the best thing in the game. The problem for ICF is it's the most expensive line to research, and it also takes the longest to get going, but it has far and away the highest peak. If you remember what I said for reactors, basically every ICF drive except for the PCT wants a reactor 1 or 2 higher than the one that unlocks it in order to actually work, and work well. Then Antimatter, it's straightforward. You have 3 drives, they upgrade. There is also the Poseidon Torch. The Poseidon Torch is a meme. This costs 1 milli of antimatter per tank, which is still pretty expensive. That requires a heap of infrastructure in order to use. This costs 5 antimatter per tank. This is a meme. You only use this, honestly, to send your counselors to space really fast in a tiny gunship. Like, it has no other purpose. It's just a meme. Don't seriously try using the Poseidon Torch. But let's now change over from that over to our spreadsheet to explain what I'm talking about. Well, actually, OBS. Bam. I hope this is enough for people to see. So, our lovely spreadsheet here. Right now it's sorted by what tree the drive is in, along with a few different things. This is because to discuss endgame drives and even some mid-game drives, we need to talk about on the books research points needed versus functional research points needed. And the reason for this is because of cogs. I'm going to go back to game for a second. If you remember... Oh no. Oh, I accidentally clicked something I should not have clicked, and now my window's resizing. Please. Okay, we're good. If you remember these cogs that give you a % bonus to project-based research points, the soft cap on this is plus 160%, which means that any given point is worth 2.6 points. This is the reason why, when I look at this sheet, I mostly do not care about RP, which is the total amount of research points that Wonderful Utility someone made up will tell you something costs, but functional RP, which is its project cost as compared to global's cost. And I also threw in a assumption that you're doing only 75% of the global cost to try and roughly even it out. Anyway, how I color-coded this is a red drive cannot get you to Saturn fast enough to be functional. It takes you more than a year to get to Saturn. You will notice, in every line, the first drive, except for Z-Pinch, the first drive is red. This is because Z-Pinch is the wonderful efficiency line. White cells are drives that are fine. They're fine. Getting out to Pluto, which is what I used for my can it win you the game step, is there's only one white drive that can do that, but all drives eventually upgrade to that, and you can see they all have... The only reason why this one's here is it can get you to Pluto, even though it takes you long to get to Saturn, which is a really weird and unique thing that only electrostatic gets. Like, the Z-Pinch one cannot get you to Pluto on 50 fuel tanks. And 50 I chose arbitrarily as a reasonable number of fuel tanks based off my advice for designing ships, which remains true until the end game. Blue drives are drives that can win you the game, but they're not great, and green drives are the best drives you should be looking for. One moment, I'm going to change this. I realized I put the pion as green. It should not be green. It should be red. You should not use it. Unless you are memeing and know what you're doing. There. Everything's better. So, if you look at this, you see Antimatter has a green drive. ICF has 2 green drives. And notably, it has a drive that upgrades and is worse than the prior drive, which is just hilarious. The only reason this drive exists is because you need it to upgrade into the... You need to go from Protium Nova Torch to Protium Converter Torch. That's why it exists. No other reason. It's basically a speed bump. And then Z-Pinch has 2 green drives, because both of these can get you out to... Like, they can get you to Saturn real fast. And Pluto real fast. So... as you can see from this, electrostatic, you get to blue at around... Actually, let me swap this list around to show you something important. I'm going to sort by sending functional RP for how many research points does it take to get you this drive. And this is also where we're going to see the one special drive from the fission line, which is the Poseidon Torch. I mentioned this briefly in my ship design video. The Poseidon Torch is the first drive you can get that can win you the game. I'm going to go back to... Oh no, did I do that with this entirely? Oh no, I think I forgot to unhide and rehide this. Oh. Doing YouTube things is hard. Mostly in terms of you need to care about a whole lot more than when you're just running math on a spreadsheet. Okay, stepping back and redoing that entire spiel briefly, I'm going to resort by this so you can, by tree ascending so you can see what I mean. Where green, very good, gets you everything you need. Blue, solid, workable, can win you the game. White, it's upgrade fodder, and red is something I really don't actually recommend using. And red is the first drive in every line except for Z-Pinch. Yep, every line except for Z-Pinch. And even then, you really don't want to. This is so close compared to the one immediately before it. I'm also not going to explain the tech tree here. Honestly, pick a line you want, look up the reactor, look what global techs you need to get to the reactor. That's how you navigate the fusion line. The fusion line is crazy. Alright, now that I'm certain that OBS is recording the correct window, yep, I'm going to resort by functional RP. This gets us Poseidon Torch. Again, first drive in the game that can win you the game. It has 260k functional RP. The next drive that hits its tier has 344. It also never requires you to go into fusion. I will now swap back to Terra Invicta to show you why this is true. So going into our ship designer, where are you? Here we go. Here's the Poseidon Torch. And it can use whatever. So the big thing with the Poseidon Torch is it uses a lot of Fissiles. The other problem is, as you add nozzles to it, it adds a ton of weight to your ship. Notice how I add nozzles, and the time it takes me to reach Pluto goes up rather than down. This is a drive that is fantastic if you have a good fissile income and you know what you're doing. If you don't, it will bankrupt you faster than any other drive I can think of. But let's go back to the spreadsheet. So, going through this, we have a whole host of red alongside the Poseidon Torch. Then we start going through things, and you can see how the functional research point scales up over and over. Z-Pinch is the first one that hits my green drives, which easily win you the game. Next up is Antimatter. I wish Antimatter was a bit lower in this amount, but it gets there, and it gets there pretty fast. Antimatter drives also have good thrust. And then you keep scaling up. An important note, the Helion Nova Torch. If you ever hear someone talk about the Daedalus drive, this is what that drive is. I'm going to go back to game for a second to show you how this drive works. It's an ICF. ICF is the nuts line, remember that. Daedalus looks like this. So you're going to see this one a lot. It's another one that you have to be careful with how many nozzles that you're using. But, you see right here, it with its reactor, it can get you to Pluto. Note, however, 24,000 tons, 36,000 tons. The sheer size of the radiator you need to make this drive work is worth 800 nobles. Let's go up to ICF 5. Alright, we lost 6,000 tons and half the nobles. That's pretty good. Oh, and now it costs 1.6 exotics. And if we want to increase our number of nozzles, ooh, that's a lot of exotics. And it's still getting us to Pluto reasonably fast, though, right? ICF5 is the first time I think this is a drive you can really use, and you only use 1 or 2 nozzles if you do that. This is because this reactor costs exotics based off of how many terawatts of drive you have. Let's go up to ICF6. Oh, that's lovely. Oh, that's so nice. Look at how much faster we are and how much lighter we are. Well, actually, look at how much faster we are. So, ICF5, 1.6 exotics, 600 nobles. ICF6. Yeah, this is pretty good. And then we have the reactor that is bullshit magic, which is ICF7. This reactor, if you look at the efficiency numbers, this reactor is 10 times as efficient for reasons. And because of that, it costs so many fewer exotics. Honestly, there's a large number of players, myself included, who kind of wish ICF7 did not exist in the game. Because of just... It makes no sense in terms of physics. It's overly centralizing in terms of what everyone recommends, and is just... It's such a jump compared to literally... It's an unreasonable jump in efficiency compared to literally everything else. It has a huge RP cost, but I'm going to jump back over to the spreadsheet. An important note on this is, here's Daedalus, and here's the Protean Converter Torch. Protean Converter Torch is the drive that comes out of ICF7. Honestly, this is... If you're not trying to rush to win the game, this is not actually a giant gap in terms of RP. Yeah, it's 3 times as much, but consider the fact that before this, you were probably splitting your research up between multiple categories, and if you're going for the PCT, all you're doing is going for the PCT. Also, 1 million of that is the drive. The reactor, by math, is, cuts down... I'm just going to drop off 1 million and show you the difference temporarily. That was the wrong thing to do. Just going to subtract 1 million. This is the functional cost for getting Daedalus with ICF7. Again, is it expensive? Yes. You are paying the cost of getting to here again in exchange for a drive that is just tremendously better. Going up further, we have the pinnacle of the Z-Pinch line, which is better than Daedalus. Especially better, it's better than Daedalus with ICF6. With ICF5, which is what I did this value with. We can go compare on the spreadsheet. I'm on the spreadsheet. Be off the spreadsheet. So Daedalus at ICF6 gets to Pluto in 24.92 weeks. We can see on the spreadsheet of this is 25 weeks, and this has a way lower exotic cost. I consider this to be a better drive than Daedalus at ICF6. The problem is ICF7 exists. Then going up, we have the pinnacle of the hybrid engines, which finally is their first one that's blue, proving that even the high-thrust fusion drive can win you the game if you're willing to wait long enough for it. Then we have Pion, which again is a meme. You will never be able to afford to use a Pion drive in any serious warship unless you're cheating. You just won't. Then we have the Protean Torch, and then the Protean Converter Torch. But let us consider another metric by virtues. I've told you this. Let's check how long it takes for them to get to Saturn, sort descending. So as we can see, the first blue drop, this is what you wind up seeing, and note how much faster the PCT is than anything but the Pion. And this is the reason why these speeds are why I say these drives are actually, just a step above everything else. Their Saturn times not as much as look at the difference in Pluto times. So, honestly, that's kind of it. This was me trying to do a quick and easy guide to endgame drives, and luckily, the quick and easy answer is all of them kind of work. Like, all of them really kind of actually do work. It's just a question of, like, to an extent, do you have a baby fusion type that you really like using more? In terms of actual recommendations for players, Poseidon Torch with one nozzle only if that by the time you are thinking about researching it, your Fissile income per month is about above 200. 200 Fissiles per month, I think, is the minimum to seriously make the Poseidon Torch your workhorse drive. And not all games are going to have mining sites that allow you to do that. Beyond that, I really recommend Z-Pinch. Z-Pinch, like, you use fission drives for all of your orbital defense needs. You go into Z-Pinch. Z-Pinch will get you to the state where you can win the game faster than any other fusion drive. Or, if you're really in it for the long haul, let's say you're going for, like, let's say you're doing a very long game, or you're doing a particular rush that has a huge amount of research. I mean a huge amount of research. Just go up ICF, get Daedalus, get the PCT, and laugh your way to victory. You can do Antimatter if you want to. Unfortunately, they're as much as the Advanced Antimatter Plasma Core is arguably the third best drive in the game. The amount of infrastructure requirement it takes and its comparison to Z-Pinch, I think, makes it lose out. It's viable. Don't get me wrong, it's definitely viable. But I would not put it down as a recommendation. Because the big problem is, if your antimatter production facilities wind up getting crippled because you mess up a fight, you now can't fuel your ships to defend the new facilities you're trying to build. Or go on any offensive operations or do anything. Yeah, that's sort of it. This is the basis for what I went to think of with drives. There's an extent to which some of this is going to change in the new patch. I don't think any of this will. The reason why is because at the point where you're looking at these drives, combat maneuvers and in-combat thrust really don't matter that much unless you're doing something weird. And any of the fusion drives, well, the low thrust ones like electrostatic and mirror cell will not get you reasonable combat thrust, no matter what. But yeah, I don't think any of the combat changes that are in the works is going to change any of these recommendations one whit. If anything, they're going to keep at your starting velocity and slowly drift in a direction as the even more dominant combat option than it already is. The last thing I need to say, for a lot of these drives, be very careful with your exotics. I pointed that out with Daedalus. But I'm just going to go through the other peak. Oh, I'm just going to quickly go through our other peak drives to show you in this build exactly what I mean by how much it costs. So, starting off with Antimatter. We want our Antimatter 3. We want to go up to 6 nozzles. It has an exotics cost. This Antimatter cost for fueling it is honestly your bigger concern. But very solid. This will win you the game. Then, going on to Fusion. Electrostatic. Electrostatic does cost exotics. Not very many. Again, it'll take you longer, but this is perfectly functional. You can win the game on this. It'll just be, it takes you a year and a half to get where you want to go, rather than 3/5 of a year to 2/3 of a year. And honestly, that is so few exotics, I don't think it matters. Like, this is honestly very cheap ship for endgame things. Nothing is over 1k, which is honestly very lovely. Let's go up to Helion Reflex. Oh, that's the big thing. This one has no exotics cost at all. No exotics cost at all. Does cost some Fissiles, but if you want one that has no exotics cost, this will do. This will do you very well. Let's go up to Tokamak. Tokamak? We do have an exotic cost, and honestly, a fairly substantial one. I've never really used this reactor. Oh, wait. Is this the one? Is this the weird one? 80 weeks, 77 weeks. Yeah, this is a weird one where only the final reactor costs you exotics, and it goes from 77 weeks to 80. Actually, here's a funny one. Don't get the level 5 reactor here. Just use one nozzle and the level 4 reactor, and you do better. I forgot about that. I need to go put that down in the spreadsheet. This is the Poseidon Torch Fission Lantern. Where's Tokamak? Poseidon Torch. Use reactor for one nozzle, not 5. Very funny. That's actually hilarious. I remember that I saw something weird like that. Alright, now we're going to go up to Hybrid, where the Borane is the only one that can actually win you the game. Again, no exotics cost, no Fissiles cost. It does eat a fair bit of resources in terms of Radiator. And I believe this one also needed 60 tanks. Yeah. Yeah, this one also needs 60 tanks. Like, this guy... This gets you some pretty good cruise acceleration and good combat acceleration. It's not a long-range drive. And another one that, because of inefficiencies, because its reactor caps out at 90%, imagine a reactor capping at 90%, you're actually better off using only one nozzle if you're going long distance. But, can win you the game. And, doesn't cost you any exotics to do so. Let's go back down. Next up. Yes, it is my baby Z-Pinch. Double check which one it is. Yes, Zeta Ditorion Fusion Torch with the flow stabilized Z-Pinch reactor. It's very cheap, both in terms of exotics and it just uses water, which is great. Other Z-Pinch drives do not necessarily do that. It actually has a pretty wide variety of fuel types, and for reasons that I'm sure make sense scientifically, but I really don't get. This one's the other main one you'll use that you could see it actually matches the reactor, and the other one doesn't, and I don't really know why. I honestly do not know why. That's a UI choice. So that's Z-Pinch. And then I believe I showed you the main relevant ones on the ICF line. It's really the Daedalus and the Protean Converter Torch. You can use the other ones, and they're fine. They're merely fine. But yeah, for Fusion, pick a path you like. Go up the path. Do you like stars? Do you like... I don't know. I think of these as vaguely Chinese symbols, but I know that's wrong. Do you like X's? Do you like black and white? Do you like spirals? Or do you like the lovely snowflake? The world is your oyster. Your drive choice is your drive choice. I'm going to finish off the video by putting the spreadsheet back on screen once more for people to take a look at. And I'll see you guys in the next one. Have a great afternoon.